Now, along with dropping bladders, some people may have a bladder that falls right out of their vagina. That is very problematic. But sometimes people say, okay, you know, I don't have a leaking problem, but what you do have is you have a retention problem. You're not emptying the bladder. And that can become a real bad problem. So sometimes the bladder falls, the uterus falls, the rectum falls, so sometimes we have to lift all that up. All of that can be lifted up by surgery, or it can be lifted up by what we call a pessary. That is just a rubber device that fits into your vagina that you can either take in or out, or you don't have to do anything with it. And I just see my patients about every 3 months, and I take it out, clean it, inspect everything, put it back in, and good to go. So those are the problems that generally occur and how we treat them. Does anybody have questions? This was really, really fast, but I wanted to make sure that you had time for questions.
How many times a day should you do the Kegel exercise?
That's a very good question. Some people think that the more is better. Not true. I have my patients do 3 sets of 10. So because if you do them more than that, then you can tire out your pelvic floor, and then it won't. Yes, sir.
I wonder if the doctors have blood tests that can tell them what is happening there, or does he have to check over with a stethoscope or whatever else?
Of what's happening in the bladder, a blood test. For men, the only blood test is a PSA, and that just gives us an idea of whether the prostate is enlarged or not. It doesn't tell us if the prostate is cancerous or not. The urologist has to look inside to see, sometimes do a biopsy of the prostate, but yeah, there's no blood test.
Well, every 4th month or 6 months sometimes you'll have me come back. We usually get a blood test a week before. Always at the PSA listed as I remember.
Yeah.
Every time.
Right. And that's to check your prostate to make sure it's not getting out of control. Yes?
How long does it take for a fluid like water to go through your system?
Oh, that's a very good question. It depends on how much you drink. If you don't drink very much water, which is a very bad thing, normal is 6 cups a day. So when people try to tell you have to drink 8 cups of water, plus whatever else you drink, don't listen to them, it's not true. There's no research or data that says that 8 cups of water is what you have to take. We encourage you to drink fluids that are non-caffeinated to count as 6. But the question of how fast it goes through your body, it depends on how much has to be absorbed by your tissues. Sometimes if we're dehydrated, and Lisa, we should have waited for this question. Sometimes if you're dehydrated, you know, your tissues are going to just scoop up all that water. The best way that you know that you're drinking an adequate amount of water is to look at what color your urine is. If your urine is dark, yellow, or brown, you're in a lot of trouble. If you urinate only once or twice a day, that's bad. Normal urinating is 6 to 8 times a day and 1 to 2 times at night. So keep that in mind. Always look at your urine to see what color it is. That always determines how much fluid you should be drinking. And most of us probably don't drink enough. Yes?
What happens if you don't urinate 6 to 8 times a day?
Well, here's the thing. Nurses, teachers, people on factory lines are the worst offenders of, well, I went this morning before I came to work, and it's 4 o'clock, I can finally go to the bathroom. What happens is that you're stretching your bladder abnormally. So nothing's going to happen in the near future, but if you can analogize this to, anybody ever have a pair of pants with an elastic waist? okay? Or a bathing suit that has elastic on the bottom, that after a while, it just gives way, and it doesn't spring back to where it's supposed to. So if you keep stretching your bladder and don't allow it to come back, then you can cause problems later on where you have trouble emptying. Yes, please.
Are there treatments for men with trouble dribbling, especially after prostate surgeries and things?
Yes, one of the most important treatments that I failed to mention is pelvic floor rehab that we also do in our office, which is biofeedback, which men respond much better to biofeedback, or pelvic floor stimulation, which is biofeedback is where we take 2 electrodes and put one on either side of your anus, around your rectum. We have you, and one on your thigh and one on your stomach. We have you sit in front of a computer and you do Kegel exercises. And you do them in a controlled way. You either start small, work high, you hold them longer, you do short ones, long ones, you do combinations. But you compete only with the computer. And it works quite well. And I see a lot of gentlemen after prostate surgery that are leaking. And we have a very good success rate with that. The other pelvic floor therapy is pelvic floor stimulation, where we put a probe. It's a very small probe, either in the vagina or in the rectum, and then the machine stimulates your muscle to contract. And all you feel is a pulling on your muscle. It's very slight. It's kind of a weird feeling. It's hard to explain it. There's no pain in there or anything like that. It's just an interesting kind of feeling. And that therapy is good for stress incontinence, urge incontinence. It helps decrease the irritability of the bladder, and it also helps improve the muscle contractility of the pelvic floor.